this new boy at the store.
Hey, what's your favorite song on this?
You don't know what love is.
I am not answering that. Is he cute? I didn't really notice that much.
My band's playing tonight at 9 if you want to come. Never met a girl who knows as much about music as you do. And television.
Don't get me started. I've seen every episode of everything.
How was it? He's extraordinary.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Can I walk you? Life's too short to waste time on things you don't absolutely love.
But how do you know if you love something absolutely?
I guess when it's the only thing that matters. The band got offered a gig in Paris. Come with us on tour.
I'm afraid I can't. But I think you very well could be the next John Coltrane.
And what are you gonna be?
If this is love.
WNAT Television.
Calling about the assistant producer position. Are you married?
Yes.
Hey.
Producer's assistant's not the best job for a housewife. Why should I hire you?
Because I didn't know that a Negro woman television producer even existed. And all my life, that is all I've ever wanted to be.
It's been a long time since I felt the way that I do now.
Robert.
Like I knew
Sylvie?
What are you doing in New York?
Recording an album.
So good to see you.
You too.
it's been a while since I smelled
You're working? You're not being a very good hostess, and what will people say?
my heart.
I can't be the woman of your dreams while also trying to be the woman of my own.
I guess I just wanted you to be happy. Even if I couldn't be a part of your life.
Pleasant experiences ahead. Don't pass it by.
Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today for our AAFCA Roundtables, we have a real treat. We have the creator as well as some of the cast for the upcoming Amazon film Sylvie's Love. We're going to start off by introducing you to Nnamdi Asomugha, Ryan Bathe, director Eugene Ashe, and Tessa Thompson. Welcome, everyone. Today we have Katia Woods from Philadelphia. We have Reggie Pounder from Chicago. We have Mercedes in Atlanta. We have Brandon in New York, in Queens, New York. We have Rhonda Rasha Penrice in Atlanta. I'm gonna let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
KB here with the Color Grade podcast. So obviously Black love is at the center of this film, and I really do love how we get to see it in all of its glory and messiness. You know, Sylvie and Robert are the central love story, but they're still just one story amongst many. So while it's odd to say kind of in 2020, but we don't often get this type of representation on screen. So for each of you, what do you hope that audiences can take away from this beautiful film?
So what I hope audiences can take away, I just hope that they can sit back and fall in love. You know, it's been such a tumultuous year since January. It's been a crazy year, and all that we've sort of been through, especially as in the Black community. I just hope that everybody's able to sit down and sort of get to the end of the year and be able to relax and fall in love again and just be in a joyful place. That's what I hope for everyone. I just think it's been so tough. So it's a gift to get this at the end of the year.
I was hoping Eugene would go next. And I could just do a ditto at the end of it. I agree with everyone. No, I think, yes, the idea of, you know, people falling in love, I think as Nnamdi said, it's been such a tough year, particularly for us Black folks. And I think in a time where there's so much conversation around the value and dignity of Black life, I think it's important that when we tell our stories, we get to tell our stories with the enormity of our humanity. And I think for so long, Hollywood has excluded us from this kind of a love story. And so to center us, to say that we even and especially in moments of struggle and strife, we get to love on each other. We get to fall in love joyfully, messily, is one way of really centering our humanity in its fullness. So I hope that audiences, all audiences, take away from that. I love seeing all of these Black faces talking about this movie, celebrating this movie, and also I think it should just be classed as a great love story, and it doesn't have to necessarily be defined by the race of its protagonist. So that's something that I also hope is included in the conversation around this film.
Yeah, and you know, it's exactly right. And I think also after the year that we've had, I think we all kind of are taking stock of, you know, we've lost a lot. And I think as we include things back into our lives, you know, Nnamdi says it best when he said in the film where he says, life is too short to waste time on things that you don't absolutely love. And I think that it's a perfect message for today. And kind of the message I'd like people to take away from it is to think about going into 2021, you know, what things you want to include back in your life as the world opens up and we have access to the things that have been taken away from us. So.
I'll just add to that. I'm not purposefully being quiet, but Black love comes in many forms and Black love expands itself. And in my case, my Black love in my house has expanded itself and created two people. And the oldest is very loud and he just got surprised by his godfather, who I didn't know was coming, but I think just surprised him. So there's been a lot of commotion these past like 45 seconds. I don't know how many of you know Brian Tyree Henry, but he's Andrew's godfather.
Oh man!
And he just walked through the door, and the love between them is pure and joyful and loud. And I would not have it any other way. I would have liked it to be a little bit further down the hall, but I can hear Brian and my son barged in and was like, Uncle Brian's here! So that is also an example of Black love. So I also get to say ditto to everything that's been said. And so I just was trying to be a little bit quiet while that commotion happened. So thank you for your patience.
I love it.
Eugene, I love what you said about in this new year, thinking of the things you absolutely love and not to waste time on the ones you don't. I would love to stop taking out the trash and having to break down boxes. I don't know how many of y'all have really felt that during this quarantine time, but I'm ready to not do that in 2021.
Stop wiping down everything I bring home from the supermarket.
That too.
Yeah, I'm gonna ditto all of those things. Well, thank you for just this wonderful film. Thank you for your responses. You know, the writing, the directing, the acting, all superb. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic out of Chicago at 91.1 FM Vocalo Radio. And there's so much to really like about this film that I had asked, could I just interview you guys individually, but they told me no. I mean, I'm talking about the AAFCA did. There's a certain musicality about the existence of each character that I think is caressed by the script and the music. Can you guys talk about how you navigated this? Because it had a rhythm to it. It had this feel to it that was musical. So can you guys speak to that?
That's Eugene.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, it's certainly intentional. You know, there's a pace to it that has a lot to do with jazz, and you know, just the rhythm of the time. I think is you know, all the time. If it's about the 70s, it's a different kind of vibe. You know, and the time that we're in, you know, I think music speaks volumes about it. I was talking to Gil about. Well, it's how I look at the music in this film as, you know, jazz is something that's playing that is around them, and Motown something that's around them. But then we have this sweeping kind of 60-piece orchestra, and for me, that's the music that comes from within them and comes from within their love, and so that forms this other kind of pad that the rhythms of the movie are based on.
Come on now, you know I want to hear from you.
Oh man, I'm like, how do you
Don't even mess this up, man. Come on.
I'm like, what can I do on top of? Okay, all right. No, I think so. You know, it's as you asked that question, I just thought of. I think for so long I'd only been thinking about my character in terms of music. You know, because my preparation was all about finding the jazz and finding how important music is in Robert's life. But just about every character in this film has some sort of musical element. I think even in the writing, there's a rhythm to how Eugene writes that's also musical. And I think that just speaks to his background as a, you know, this prolific recording artist. And even in Sylvie's character, I love one of my favorite scenes in the film is when she's dancing to See You Later, Alligator in the record store. And Robert comes up and he's peeking on it. And it's just like, it's these little moments where Eugene found a way to bring music into the story and have it be joyful. I mean, there are also moments where, there are sad moments with music too, but I love how it comes in moments like that, and then from there, See You Later, Alligator becomes a tagline for the two characters. But yeah, I appreciate the music element of it. I think it's as big a character as Sylvie and Robert in the film, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think there was a real musicality to the way that people spoke then. Real counterstones for me in Sylvie were women like Diane Carroll. I watched so much of her work, listened to so many of her interviews, and also Lorraine Hansberry. And if you listen to those interviews, they tend to speak all the way through a thought, whereas it's more of a modern sensibility to stop and start and and you know. And I think at the time there was a real musicality created by the fact that they just didn't do that as much. Their thoughts had a real musicality because they'd play through a thought and take a breath. And so I think that also just the time, listening to folks from the time, in me created a sense of music and made me feel more in the pocket of the period, I think.
I guess that's it. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, Mercedes here with She Critiques out of Atlanta. I so enjoyed this film, y'all. It felt so good, okay? What I really love about it is that it breaks that Cinderella narrative of how love should flow. You know, this has the twists and turns and obstacles of how the love story unfolds. And in your opinion, I was just wondering, what do you think was the biggest obstacle that Sylvie and Robert had to go through to ultimately be together? And we can start with you, Tessa.
Oh goodness. Well, something that isn't entirely in their control is timing. I always say, because I think it's the tagline for the film, isn't it? One of them, when you find the right love at the wrong time or something.
Yeah.
And then Nnamdi and I got into an argument as to whether it was the wrong timing. Because he thinks they met at the right time, but Sylvie messed it up. We're still arguing about that. The film is well over. We still have arguments, so I can't be sure. I think the biggest obstacle is probably lack of clear communication, I would say. And I think that's the biggest thing for all folks. I mean, I feel like Ryan and Nnamdi both are experts at beautiful Black love that is plentiful and multiplies. So I'd be curious to hear from both of them what they think is an impediment to Sylvie and Robert figuring that out sooner.
I'd go to Ryan on that. I know that Ryan's character actually helps Sylvie and Robert because she gets Sylvie the job.
See?
And then, oh,
look at all this Black love.
There we go. What's up, Sylvie? There it is.
You got Black love bombed.
I love it. Because some of us have kids that do that. She's like,
at 1:58, everything in my house began to explode. Every like one piece by piece. So I'm so sorry.
That's perfect. That was perfect timing, actually, Ryan. We were going to you. Tell us about Black love.
I'm so sorry, Nnamdi. You were saying something so pithy and profound.
I hadn't said
No,
anything.
no. He hadn't said anything. He was just looking over. It's like the Brady Bunch. He kept looking over at your square, being like, "Is she done talking to whoever she's talking to off camera, so I can have her answer?"
I mean,
because I don't know what to
calendar,
say.
it's in the calendar. I'm like, is somebody bleeding? Like, what do you want? But you know, I'm still wifely. No matter what, I'm wifely. Instead of being like, Negro, what do you want? I was like, yes, my love. What can I have? So that is, you know. Speaking of timing, we know a little something about timing not being right. You know, I wonder if it's like the timing isn't right, or maybe it's just some relationships go through that so that you appreciate it more when you finally get it. You know, like that's kind of a gift that some relationships have, where you're like, oh, there's something beautiful about, you know, marrying the boy next door and growing old together and being married for 70 years when you're 85, or maybe not that young, but you know what I mean? But there's also something to be said for, I think, a love story where people have gone through a lot to get to one another, whether that's individually or as a couple. And I think that they really can appreciate it when it finally is. I'm not going to step in the middle of an argument, but whether it's the right timing or learning to communicate, I do think you learn to appreciate it.
And I'd like to add before you leave that, you know, more, even for me, more so than even timing, it's the times that they were in. And all of the outside constructs that are placed on them, you know, that women have to be a certain way, but then a man has to be the breadwinner. So what they're doing is navigating a new set of rules in a time that's trying to, you know, that where that's pretty well laid out already.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. I really enjoyed
That almost sounded coherent, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Kathy Woods, Cup of Soul Show out of Philadelphia. My question is for the women. Yeah, Nnamdi, we're very familiar with you. Eagles. The question is, one thing that I loved about this film too was the role of women. Like with you, Ryan, you playing Kate, you're producer. It's not explained why you're a producer. You're just the producer of the TV show. And then the other thing I love with your character, Tessa, is the fact that, yes, she had a stumble, but it did not stop her ambition. And too often when women went through that in that time period, it meant it was like doom skill. Talk about a little bit why it was important for you to take on a role where women were shown to take ownership of their lives. And it was prior to the 1970s, especially Black women.
To me, it was everything. I was asked earlier what my favorite scene in the movie was, and it's my scene with Ryan's character when we first meet in her office. I love performing that scene because she's an exquisite, giving, fantastic actor. And I just love the part. I love this idea that you find this young woman who's fledgling, who has this dream that feels impossible. It seems so impossible to her that when she's confronted with a woman inside this office, she doesn't even imagine that this woman can be in a position of power. And I feel like that's something that's important to remember, because we think about, when we talk about, you know, gender boxes, we box ourselves into those spaces too. She doesn't even imagine that this woman could be the producer in question. And when she learns that, it's this woman who gives her the opportunity. And I think something that really that illuminated to me is how critical it is when we are in positions of power that we bring others into the room. And I just love that so much about Ryan's character. And not for nothing, I happen to know just from personal life experience over this quarantine that Ryan is a fantastic producer as well. So it's like life imitates art. She can do anything. But it is very important, I think, just as it is for Sylvie, to see someone do something that she wants to do that's like her, that she knows that it's possible. I think that's true for all of us. That's why it cannot be overstated, the power of representation, and to get to see folks in those spaces. I mean, Nnamdi was saying earlier that it wasn't until he saw Boomerang that he thought he was going to go to school for business, which that didn't work out clearly, but you know.
I can't believe you brought that up. I think we're all
classic.
We know the movie Boomerang. I loved Eddie Murphy's character in Boomerang. It was my inspiration. Anyway.
But I think that's why it's so important that we get to see Black folks in all of our variations, right? In all of our multitudes, not as a monolith, but really that to me, something at the heart of the film is the relationship between women, and in particular, Ryan's character to Sylvie.
What about you, Ryan? What did it feel like for you?
Well, Tessa, you're very kind. Those are such sweet words, and you are truly grace personified. But I've told you that many times before, and I look forward to telling you that over and over and over again. It was a fun scene to play because of the twist, because of the fact that it was, you know, it was just these, I kind of like the idea that maybe, you know, we've never gotten a chance really, truly to see, you know, Diane Carroll and Dorothy Dandridge in a scene together. We never really got that opportunity because there was usually only one part for that type of woman, and one of them got it. I imagine they probably made them duke it out in a parking lot somewhere. Like, I don't know. It's kind of what it feels like a little bit in LA. But it felt to me like we were sort of giving this space to something that had yet that should have happened in the 60s or the 50s, but never got a chance to. We were wearing, I like to think of it as their clothes and being in their time, and just really paying and giving honor to that, you know, to that space. I love the fact that, you know, all of us on this call, all of us sitting here, whether it's, you know, people who are journalists or actors or both or producers, someone had to knock down the door. And generally speaking, that person is not someone we're ever going to know. It's like, we know the person who walks through the door first, you know, but we don't really have all of those stories about the people who, you know, knocked it down and knew that they were knocking it down for us. They would never walk through that door, ever. They'd never get that opportunity. So someone like Kate, I feel like did exist. You know, I've said this before, but, you know, you talk to older women, you know, grandmotherly type people that you sit down and you talk to them and you find out that they did all of these fascinating and wonderful things that you never in a million years thought that they would A, have the opportunity to do, B, why are you just now telling me, C, that's incredible, but they did it as a matter of course. They did it as a matter of just, this is what we have to do. We have to break down these doors. We have to bring people with us and, you know, and do it with a smile on our face and pumps on our feet, you know, and those women existed. They still exist. And if you just start talking, you know, to those older people in your lives, you'll probably find there might be a Kate somewhere that you just didn't know. Yeah, she produced the Lucy Wilbur cooking show. Like, wait, what? So.
Thank you so much, ladies. Great film. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love the film, and it was very heartwarming to realize I'm watching a movie that pretty much represents my grandparents and their love story. My grandma was a young executive at a local TV station, and my grandfather worked at General Motors in Detroit. So I was like, whoa, this is uncanny. So I love the characters, and I'm always curious with characters that I like, what happens after the credits roll. So my question for everyone on this call is, where does Sylvie and Robert's story go after he finishes showing her what's in his lunchbox for some reason?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a.
Sorry, I'm so juvenile. That got me.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of clues. There's a little bit of a montage interspersed with the credits. But you know, I think the big question is just really what happens to. I think what happens to people when you decide that you can't live without each other. And so I think that you work out all of the other details, what you're going to do for a living, where you're going to live, all of those things. The big thing is that they know, I can't live without you. You know, what happens if, I forget exactly what your line is, Tessa, even though I wrote it, I apologize. But, you know, what if I can't live without you? Or what if I can't be happy without you? And once you know that, I think that that's really the point. So yeah, we do kind of throw in, we see Robert playing in the jazz club. We see that Sylvie's still working at the TV station. we give you some clues. We see they're a happy family on the beach, but I think that's the biggest takeaway.
I like to think I've never really thought about this, but I am so curious about some of the characters that you don't get to see as much of. Like, I want to know how home life goes for Kate, and she's on her journey. I want to know, is she happy not working, taking a break from working? I want to know what happens to Dickie. I think that's I just want to know what's going on with those characters. Mona, I would love a Mona movie, just a whole movie of Mona with her like busy having dates and also being on the front line of the civil rights movement. I think all the characters are so compelling. You know what just occurred to me? What if Sylvie produced a show for Robert? Like, you know how sort of music shows were more popular at the time and you could be like a band leader? How cool would it be if they like
Robert Holloway?
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I think that's what happened. That's what I'm going to say.
I support that. I love that.
I 100%.
That is great. I'll take that. I usually ask other people, like, what do you think happened at the end? And so I hadn't thought of it either, but I'm going to go with Tessa's.
Have you gotten any funny answers back?
Just like they have a bunch of babies and also, I mean, people
Did anyone think that they don't end up, that they break up again?
No, no one said that. People
Hey, Brandon, what do you want to happen?
Yeah.
What would you like to see happen?
So I would like to see them have a few more kids, and I think Tessa's, alternate universes that make sense with the TV station. I think that'd be really great for Robert. But I think Robert figures it out, and he eventually goes, like, he's able to build up his music career as a solo artist, and I think that really works out for him. I truly do.
You're a good man.
I like that.
You know what? Someone did ask, like, or did say, like, what if Robert had another kid in Paris when he left? And then when he came back, like, that's like another Eugene said.
I believe that could have happened. I really do.
Man, you're giving
really
the sequel.
Dude,
it's a dark
that happened
sequel.
to my uncle, and he ended up, when his wife of 70 years died, he ended up marrying the woman that he had an affair with to have the baby. Yeah, it's yeah. Uncle
that's a movie.
He keeps asking, well, he's passed away, but up until his dying breath, he wanted me to get Denzel Jackson. I'm sorry, that's how he calls him. Denzel Jackson, the one who screams a lot, to help him produce the movie. Yeah, that's how he would phrase it. And he would call me like I literally could just pick up the phone. I was like, first of all, there's no such person, but if I could, Korean War vet, wonderful man, but that happened.
I love it.
You need to get Sterling on this.
Yep.
The two of you.
That's hilarious.
Thank you, everybody.
TikTok. Thank you, Brandon. I didn't mean to hijack your question.
Thank you, Brandon.
Well, since everybody is talking about what they did afterwards, Eugene, I want you to tell us, how long did you live with this story? What inspired it specifically? How did Sylvie come to you?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about this in the past, just, photographs of people from the time and telling a different story about Black life than I had seen depicted in films, or the cover of a Nancy Wilson record, and how glamorous she looks and how beautiful she looks, and feeling like she looked like women in these movies I saw from that time, but we never really saw a movie starring women who look like her, with the exception of Diane Carroll. Diane Carroll was the one. Dorothy Dandridge, life got kind of cut short, and other than Carmen Jones, which actually Diane Carroll was in with her, so they do have a scene together. But yeah, it wasn't like a lot, and there were movies like The Way We Were, and movies like Mahogany, and just there's this whole kind of like really strong romantic dramas that were done in the 70s that I grew up watching, stuff like Claudine. And so that was really like the motivation behind it. We see a lot of romantic comedies, and I love romantic comedies, but I also missed and was pining for movies like Love Story, movies that make you cry, movie that really, you know, you get that real drama from. Like I love, someone asked about the favorite scenes. I love like the breakup scene, you know, when he comes and it's just so heartbreaking to me. And, you know, all the little looks, Tessa like looking at him like, you know, I always do that. I'm trying, it's like, no, I don't know, Robert. It's just like, I just, that. I love it, you know? It's just, I miss that kind of drama. And that's what, you know, so, I mean, every time I see that scene, I love it. I can watch it on a loop. But that's what inspired me to, you know, I wanted to kind of investigate what happens when you know, when you miss that person and when you have unfinished business with the love of your life, you know, how it messes up, jacks you up for all, you know, the other relationships and, you know, so I wouldn't say that I had an exact Sylvie in my life, but we all have had that person in the past that, you know, that we kind of, you know, we didn't all marry them like Ryan, you know. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. It's a wonderful film.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nnamdi, Tessa, Eugene, and Ryan, thank you so much for participating in the AAFCA Roundtables. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film critics, thank you for watching and have a great day. God bless. And Ryan, we love Sterling, so he can do no wrong in our eyes. Tell him we said
this
hi.
This is
and
the
Merry
only
Christmas.
house that he can do wrong in.
Tell him Merry Christmas from us.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you.